Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today we have a very exciting vlog because this is going to be a spoilery vlog as I reread my favorite book of all time, Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So hi, if you're new here, my name's Darian and I love Strange the Dreamer. I first read Strange the Dreamer in 2020, March 2020 actually. I think I finished it right before everything shut down, you know, the whole world shut down. So this book really found me when I needed it most, and since then I have only reread it once. So in this vlog I will be rereading it for, well, I'll be reading it for the third time but rereading it for the second time, you know what I'm saying? And the first time I reread this book I tabbed it up, but I wasn't writing in my books back then. The second time I read it was only in 2021, so it's been 3 years since I reread this book, and now I'm gonna read it again and replace all my old tabs because they aren't see-through, and now I only use see-through tabs because I have learned. And I'm also gonna annotate it, and I'm just so excited to get back into this world. So like I mentioned, this is going to be a full spoilery vlog. There's not gonna be like spoiler-free sections and then spoiler sections. It's all gonna be spoilers. So if you haven't read this book yet and you want to, which I highly suggest you do because it is my favorite book, then I would save this video for another time and come back once you have read this book. I do mention in the video, because spoiler alert, I've already film this vlog, but I do mention that I might combine reading this and Muse of Nightmares in one vlog. I've decided to separate those vlogs. So this is only for Strange the Dreamer. I do not spoil Muse of Nightmares in this video, don't you worry, but I highly suggest only watching this vlog if you have read this stunning book. So if you're still here, we already know what this book is about, but just to set the scene, this book follows Laszlo Strange, the namesake of my dog, Laszlo, obviously, and he is a librarian in the city of Zosma, and he has always had this obsession with this lost city of Weep. When he was younger, he would pretend he was one of the warriors from the city. When he was, I think, 6 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, the true name of the city disappeared from everyone's minds. Even if you try to say it, you get the taste of tears in your mouth, which is why it gets the new name Weep. This mystery has haunted Laszlo since he was a young boy, and he is one of the only people in Zosma who believes that Weep is a real place and wants to find out what happened to its name. And then he has the opportunity to travel to Weep, and things ensue. And if you're still here, hopefully you've read the book, but I'm still not. I'll wait till the vlog to start spoilers. But yeah, I just love this book so much, and I thought it would be fun to vlog myself rereading it and be able to talk about it and not hold anything back, which is why it's spoilery. So if you have read this book, I mean, hopefully you have read this book, but I would love to hear all of your thoughts in the comments and we could chat about this book because it's just my favorite. I mean, like I said, my dog is named after the main character. I do have the moth tattooed on my arm. I'm a little bit obsessed, and yeah. So without further ado, let's just get into the vlog portion of this video. So I'm about 100 pages into Strange the Dreamer. Obviously, I'm on page 94, so a little less than 100 pages. You can maybe tell these are all my old tabs, and I have the new tabs in here. They look a lot cleaner than the old ones, so I'm excited for the whole book. I mean, these kind of, like, you know, they have character, but I'm excited for it to look a little cleaner. But I mean, I don't even know where to start, because what is there to say besides I'm loving this. I mean, well, this is only my third time reading this, but both times I've reread this, I get nervous before I start it because I'm like, what if it's not my favorite book? Like, what if I started and I'm like, what was I thinking? But no. It's my favorite book. It's so good. So this is also the first time I'm reading this since getting Laszlo, and so reading his name so many times is definitely a little weird. There was a point where it was like, Laszlo was just a baby, and I was like, so true. But let's talk about the very beginning of the book, shall we? So in case, I know I've already given spoiler warnings, but in case you're still here and don't want to hear spoilers, spoilers, okay? This whole vlog is spoilers, okay? So already I am annotating this as I go. So already, the prologue of the book, which is insane to read when you know how the book ends. The whole book starts off with, on the second Sabbath of 12th moon in the city of Weep, a girl fell from the sky. Her skin was blue, her blood was red. Imagine starting your book that way. Like, I can't even. It's kind of insane. But also, the more you read, it talks about this girl who like fell onto an iron gate. It says they would say, like, it's talking about what people would eventually say about this death that people witnessed. And it says they would say a flock of moths came frantic and tried to lift her away. That was true, only that. Like, the fact that the first time I read this book, I read that prologue and then just completely forgot about it for the rest of the book. Like, this book literally tells you, spoiler, in case you're not gone yet, this book literally tells you on the first page that Sarai dies. Literally the first page. And yet I went through the whole book not expecting it, forgetting the prologue ever happened. When we meet Sarai and we find out about her moths, like, did not compute that this was what the prologue was talking about. It even says that her hair is red. I don't know where it says that. But it does say her hair is red at some point. So, like, the book literally tells you that it's Sarai. And, like, I don't know about you guys when you read this book, but for me, did not compute. And sometimes it does pay off to have a pea brain, because then I get to be surprised by books. So that's the prologue. Then we get into the story of Laszlo. This is funny because Laszlo's sitting over there and he's just like, hello. But yeah, so Laszlo, he was an orphan and he's given the name Strange because that's what the name all orphans are given. And he grows up among monks, and then he's like obsessed with this lost city. And when he's, I think, 5 years old, the name of the city is plucked from everyone's minds and the name Weep replaces it. And it's called Weep, which is something I forgot about, but it's called Weep because when you try to say the name of the city, it brings the taste of tears to your mouth, which is so interesting. He's obsessed. A man obsessed. His first obsession is Weep. His next obsession will be Sarai. But anyways, then he grows up, he learns to love stories and books, and he becomes a librarian. And again, the last time I read this book was 2021, I think. In 2021, I was still doing my bachelor's degree, and I don't think I even thought about becoming a librarian yet. I don't think, because I only applied to library school the year after, in 2022. So I don't think at that point I knew that I wanted to be a librarian. So the stuff about like him loving books, well, the loving books part obviously meant a lot to me before, but like his views of librarians, like reading it this time around, really means a lot to me. And they talk about how like he set foot in a library and then never set foot out. There's the old master Hyrule who says the library knows its own mind. When it steals a boy, we let it keep him. And then it says Laszlo couldn't have belonged at the library more truly if he were a book himself. Like, oh my god, this writing, like Laini Taylor's writing is just so beautiful. I love her writing. And so that's where he starts to get the name Strange the Dreamer, because he's known as a dreamer. This book, honestly, this book is for all the I hate it here lovers out there. Because like, he just wants to go to secret gardens in his mind, you know? That's all he wants. And also, another thing is all the foreshadowing in this book, and that's something that I definitely noticed the second time I read this. But there's so much foreshadowing about, first of all, ghosts, but I'll get to that in a second, but also just like what ends up happening to Laszlo. So here it says, like they're talking about girls or something, and it says Laszlo could as easily will his skin to turn color as he could approach and speak to a girl. And as we know, later on, he does end up speaking to a girl and then his skin changes color. So obviously there's the foreshadowing in the prologue that I just completely missed the first time I read this. And there's the iconic line, "It was impossible, of course, but when did that ever stop any dreamer from dreaming?" so true. Oh my god, and then there's this whole section about the difference between scholars and librarians, and this is when we get introduced to Theon Nero. So it says scholars were graduates of the universities, librarians were not. They might have the minds for it, but none had the gold. Which is so so real in real life, because librarians, like, they have so much knowledge, and yet we meet Theon and he asks for Laszlo, the complete works of Laszlo Strange, and when he comes to demands for Laszlo's works, it's talking about Laszlo's hearts, because they have two hearts. It says his hearts hadn't stopped beating after all. They were fast and irregular, like a pair of trapped moths. I mean, can we not with the moths? So then we find out about Laszlo and Theon's history, how he witnessed Theon's father beating him, and so he showed him some kindness, and then Theon takes advantage of that kindness by demanding for all of Laszlo's works on Weep, because he knows that a group of warriors, the Kane from Weep, are going to arrive in Zosma, and he wants to show that he knows all about them, even though he didn't care until he found out that they were coming, because no one except for Laszlo believed that they were real. But anyways, oh yeah, I highlighted this passage because it is exactly, I Hate It Here by Taylor Swift. It says, it's talking about books. It says, here captured between covers was the history of the human imagination, and nothing had ever been more beautiful, or fearsome, or bizarre. Here were spells and curses, and myths and legends, and Strange the Dreamer had for so long fed his mind on them, that if one could wander into it, they would discover a fantasia. I love it! And then we get our first look of the white bird, and we find out more about this bird in Muse of Nightmares, and I won't spoil Muse of Nightmares in this video, because I do plan, I'm still not sure yet if I'm gonna do a separate video for Muse of Nightmares or put these in the same video. I don't know yet. So right now I will not spoil Muse of Nightmares. And, you know, Laszlo sees this white bird that disappears, and it says, like a ghost diffusing through the veil of the world. Another line about ghosts, and then the Kane warriors come and they explain that Weep has a problem and they need to rally up like scholars and alchemists and engineers and mathematicians, basically the smartest people in each city, to bring back to Weep to help them figure out this problem. We don't know what the problem is yet. I mean, obviously we know, but we don't know. Laszlo doesn't know. And obviously there's no one more qualified than Laszlo because he knows everything about Weep. And of course Theon starts speaking to the Kane in their language that he learned because of Laszlo's notes, and no one will let Laszlo interview for a position to go back with them to Weep, because they're like, what would, you know, a librarian have to do to help them? And then Laszlo finds his voice at the last second before the Kane warriors are about to leave, and he speaks up in their language and says, like, he'll do literally anything. He'll be, oh, by the way, the head of the Kane, Errol Fane, we know him well. We'll talk more about him later. But he tells him that he could be a secretary, like he will do anything to get the chance to go to Weep. And Theon shows his ass in front of Errol Fane because he's like, what would you want with this guy who can only tell stories? And Errol Fane's like, well, we could use some new stories. And so he asks Laszlo to join them right away. Oh my god. And also I love when Laszlo is leaving with the Kane warriors, and he looks at Theon and he says, you can keep the books. Get wrecked. So yeah, so then Laszlo sets off on his adventure, and then we enter part 2, which is when we meet Sarai and the gang. And of course, the chapter where we meet Sarai is called Kissing Ghosts, and the first line is, you can kiss a ghost, that I think Ruby says to Sparrow. So we meet Sarai and her siblings, who, it's kind of weird to call them siblings because of reasons. But there's Ruby, Sparrow, Feral, and Minya. And we haven't met Minya yet where I am. We know that, well, we don't know actually where they are exactly. They're stuck somewhere. We know that. And we know that they're blue, which when I first read this, did not click with the prologue of this book, but we know they're blue, and we know that they each have some sort of power. We know that Sarai can't dream without having nightmares, and that she's up during the night and sleeps during the day because of whatever her power is, which we don't know yet. Obviously, we do know it has to do with moths. So yeah, it alludes to whatever happened 15 years ago that caused the true name of Weep to disappear from everyone's minds, and it alludes to the ghosts that they live amongst, but we don't know much more than that yet. So anyways, I am just gonna read for the rest of the night. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm sorry if you can hear that rain ambience, but I needed to keep noise on because it's supposed to thunder tonight and I don't want Laszlo to freak out, so I had to have some noise playing. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I am just so excited to keep reading, and I can't wait for Laszlo and Sarai to meet, and then to be hurt, which will be so fun. Can't wait for that. So yeah, so I'll probably try to check in every 100 pages, but also I don't know what I'm gonna do, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna go and read and just have a great time. It's the next day and I have just hit page 202, so I figured I'd do another update. We're almost halfway. How many pages are in this? I know it's 5 something. It's 532 pages, so we're almost halfway, and we have, you know, things have been heating up, but Laszlo and Sarai have still not yet met. I kind of forgot how long it takes for them to meet, but let's catch up, shall we? So let me go to where I stopped. So as we continue through the book, there are even more foreshadowing elements to what happens at the end. For example, so we've learned more about Sarai and the other god spawn. We have met Minya now, and we know that Minya is the oldest of them, but she is still in the body of a 6-year-old girl, because the day that the gods died and there was the massacre in the Citadel, and Minya had saved the 5 of them, I think. Since that day, she has not grown physically for whatever reason. And honestly, I don't remember. I think it has something to do with how she controls ghosts. I think it like took away her ability to like physically change, but that could be wrong. I honestly don't remember, and I'm not sure if they say it in this book or in Muse of Nightmares. So they're talking and it says, it wasn't as though one could go missing in the Citadel, not unless you took a leap off the terrace anyway, which I thought was just rude. And so we get to see Minya use her power, because when someone dies in Weep, their ghost leaves their body and Minya grabs hold of the ghost before they can, you know, move on to the afterlife, and then she can control the ghost. And I know that we learn so much about Minya in the second book, so it's very hard to hate her, because I know we find out more later about her and the reasoning behind why she is the way she is, but like sometimes you just wanna punch her, you know? And so Sarai, we find out about her power, which is that she is the Muse of Nightmares, and every night she screams moths that don't come out of her body but are more like part of her spirit, not spirit, but they come from herself, they are part of her. And then the moths go down into Weep and go on the foreheads of the citizens of Weep, and she can go into their dreams. And when she first discovered this power, she would cause the people to have nightmares because she was just so angry at the humans. And Minya has this like vendetta against the humans, and because they killed the other god spawn. And so Sarai too was angry for a very long time and gave them all nightmares. And she's kind of growing out of that and just feels bad for them, because she realizes that they are also survivors And we don't know exactly yet what, well, I know, but it hasn't been talked about yet, like what happened between the humans and the gods. And I am not looking forward to getting to that part because it's really upsetting and devastating. Basically, I mean, I'll talk about it more when it happens, but the gods would basically kidnap humans, bring them up to the Citadel, keep them as almost slaves, as their lovers, their non-consensual lovers, and then bring them back down when they're done with them. And one of the gods would erase their memories. So we find out about Errolfane. This is gonna be very stream of consciousness, by the way. I have not planned what I'm gonna say or anything, but we've also found out more about Errolfane, who is the leader of the Tizercane warriors. And as they were approaching Weep, he said he's not gonna sleep in Weep the first night because he gets nightmares in Weep. And we know that he is Sarai's father, and her mother was Izagal, the goddess of despair or the goddess of terror, something not good. And he is still experiencing trauma from what happened to him when he was taken to the Citadel. And he has a wife named Azarine, and she has not given up on him, and he like does not understand why she won't give up on him. And he keeps saying like, why won't she just let me go? Like, doesn't she realize I can't go back to the man I used to be? And I'm like, no, that's not, like, she just wants to love you for who you are. So anyways, so that's really sad. That's like, there's so much that's sad in this book. But I think Laini Taylor just writes it all so well. The generational trauma, but also just the trauma of dealing with something that, you know, happened many years ago and that you're still dealing with, and how it never really goes away. And like, when Laszlo and the rest of them arrive at Weep and see what the problem is, which is that the Citadel is in the shape of a giant seraphim who are, now this is where I'm trying to remember because we haven't talked too much about the seraphim, but I think like the god spawn are seraphim, if I'm remembering correctly, and maybe I'm not. I don't know, maybe I'm not remembering right, but I'm sure we'll talk about it later. It's basically casting a shadow on the whole of Weep, and this Citadel is a reminder of what the people of Weep have been through. And I know that trauma is very much a theme that runs through the entirety of this series, not just in this book. And I just love the way that it's portrayed. And I also love like the side characters, like I never knew how to pronounce her name, Calixte and Ruza, and like Laszlo and Ruza joking around. They're so funny. Like, they're just two boys hanging out. Oh yeah, they did talk about the seraphim. They were beings of surpassing beauty with wings of smokeless fire, 6 of them, 3 male, 3 female, and long, long ago, before time had a name, they came down from the skies. Okay, yes, I do remember that. And then at first they thought that the gods, like Izagal and the rest of them, were the seraphim, and it turned out they weren't. We also got to my favorite quote in the whole book, which is, "And that's how you go on, you lay laughter over the dark parts. The more dark parts, the more you have to laugh, with defiance, with abandon, with hysteria, any way you can." I love that quote. So yes, Sarai screams her moths, and Sarai clearly is jealous of the humans in the sense that she would love to experience a sense of normalcy and to not be afraid that they would be afraid of her, based on just like first looking at her. And she said she just wants someone to hold hands with, which is devastating. Oh yes, so then, so Sarai, I can't remember if I explained this last night, but since she's up during the night, she sleeps during the day, but she has to drink this like substance called lull because she can't control like her thoughts while she's sleeping, and so she ends up always having nightmares when she sleeps. She can't dream, which, you know, Strange the Dreamer, that's all he does is dream. But one day she wakes up, well, she doesn't wake up because she's having a nightmare, but one day the lull doesn't work and she has a nightmare, and she thinks it's because the lull isn't strong enough or she's getting too used to it. But I'm pretty sure, I honestly don't remember the actual reason, but I'm quite sure it has to do with Minya, but I can't remember what she's doing or exactly why, but we'll find that out later. Oh yeah, and we see the white bird again. And then there's also this section which honestly is quite rude, but it says, Sarai was between plum trees, her hands trembling, resting on the balustrade. Over the edge was nothing but empty air, a straight drop far, far down to the rooftops. She was uneasy standing so close. She made the descent every night through her moth senses, but that was different. The moths had wings, she did not. She took a careful step back and wrapped her hand around a strong branch. Like, the amount of foreshadowing is honestly quite rude. Oh, and then there's a point where they keep referencing Scathis, who was one of the gods, but he was like the leader of the gods, kind of. And the reason for this is because he had the ability to control Mizarthim, and Mizarthim is like what the citadel is made out of, and Mizarthim is basically indestructible, and it's not malleable, like you can't do anything with it, but he had the power to control it. So they often talk about how they wish that that was their power, because then they could move the citadel away and then there wouldn't be a problem. And they say that when they were babies, every time a new baby god spawn was born, then they would be tested to see if that was their power. And it says, in all of Great Ellen, who is one of the ghosts, in all of Great Ellen's years in the nursery, it had manifested only once, and Karako, who was one of the gods, I think, had taken the baby away on the spot. And I believe we find out more about this in Muse of Nightmares, so I'm not gonna say anything about that. Very interesting. So that's basically where I am now. Still loving it, obviously. I cannot wait for Laszlo and Sarai to meet, because they only see each other in real life one time. I can't talk about it. And yeah, to find out more about the story of the Seraphim. And I am not looking forward to, you know, all the sad stuff that's coming up. I'm just having a great time with this reread. And so I'm gonna keep reading, and then I'll try to update again in another 100 pages. So it's been a few days. I think the last time I updated I was 200 pages in. I am now this far in. I'm on page 430. So I think I have almost exactly 100 pages left. Yeah, because there's 432 pages. So I'm quite sure I'm gonna finish this tonight. I am really tired today. Today's Saturday, and I've just been tired all day. And I want to make sure I enjoy the ending, even though it's not enjoyable. But like, I want to make sure I'm there for it. But I also feel like I can definitely finish it tonight, because I know the ending, like once it starts, you can't really stop reading it, and things are about to go down soon. So let me try to catch you up on everything that's happened. I'm just gonna do a little speed run, I guess, of everything that's happened. I mean, we've definitely found out more information about the Mizarthim, the gods that lived there, that kidnapped the people of Weep and, you know, committed horrible crimes against them, and thus created god spawn, so the children of the gods and the humans, and that's what Sarai and the rest of them are. And we know that there was one god, Karako, who would test the children for whatever their gift was and would take some of them away, but we don't know where, except that I do remember that is talked about more in Muse of Nightmares. I honestly don't remember like all the details about that, but I feel like I remember enough. But I have decided this vlog is just going to be Strange the Dreamer, and then if you guys want, I'll do another vlog for Muse of Nightmares, but I'll probably read that soon anyways regardless, because I've only read that book once. But anyways, so we found out more about all of that, and it's just so sad. Like, it's so tragic, and I really appreciate how Laini Taylor, there's no like clear-cut villain in this book, because obviously what Errol Fane and the other humans did by, well, killing the gods wasn't so bad, but killing all the god spawn, or so they thought was all the god spawn, like, I can understand why they did it, but that doesn't mean it's not horrible. And I also understand like Minya's point of view of hating the humans because of what they did, but I also understand Sarai's point of view of having empathy for them. So it's definitely very complex. It's not so black and white. Another thing that happened is that Laszlo and Sarai met, Sarai started going into Laszlo's dreams, and the first time that she's in his dream, he actually sees her, and that's never happened to her before. Normally when she goes into people's dreams, they're not able to see her, but he does. So what does that mean? I don't know. And he's like, oh my god, she's pretty. And then he talks about how like they're planning on coming up to the Citadel, and she tries to warn him not to do that because Minya is planning on unleashing her army of ghosts against the humans who try to come up there. But Laszlo just thinks it's a dream. He also thinks that Sarai is Izagal because she painted the black mark on her forehead when they met in his dream. So they end up going up there anyways. Laszlo sees Sarai for a second, and that's the only time they ever see each other, like in person, which is so sad. And it's her telling them to leave. And wait, let me find that part. Oh yeah, we do get a really sad moment with Minya because she's still processing the trauma of the carnage, as she calls it, when the humans killed all the god spawn. And like she's the only one of them that remembers it because she was 6 years old and the rest of them were like 2 and under, and she saved them. I think I already talked about this, but there's a part where she's just like pacing and she just keeps saying to herself, they were all I could carry, they were all I could carry. And it's so sad. Like, it's so easy to villainize Minya because obviously I don't agree with everything she does, but then you consider what she went through and it's easy to see why she feels the way she does. Ugh. I just love this book. I love how nuanced all the characters are. Oh my god, my battery's flashing. Okay, let's try to do this fast. Maybe, did I already talk about this part? Where they go up? Oh my god, like them just like assessing each other in his dreams, and he's like, she's really lovely. Oh my god, it's so cute. Oh yeah, there was this line that is definitely like a bit of foreshadowing where Minya says, close your mouth, her voice like ice, and Sarai saw that it infuriated her that she couldn't compel the living to obey her as easily as she did the dead. Like, that's pretty rude. Here it is. So when Laszlo and Errolfane and the rest of them go up to the Citadel and he sees Sarai for like 2 seconds, and it says, Laszlo, amazed, said, you, and Sarai with a sob screamed, go. I can't. And then the ghosts pull her back in, and that's the only time they ever see each other in person. It's so sad. But at that point, he doesn't know that she's Sarai. He still thinks that she's Izagal. And then she enters his dreams again to kind of find out what happened, if the humans are planning to come up and kill them or what their plan is. And she realizes that Errolfane, you know, he thought that she was dead this whole time and he thought he had killed her, but then he sees her and he knows instantly that this is his daughter and she's alive. And so he doesn't want to talk to any of the other like Tyzer Kane or any of the other people that he brought to Weep about it yet, because he doesn't know what to do. He feels very conflicted because now he knows that his daughter is up there and that it's not just like a graveyard basically. Oh my god. And then there was when when Sarai goes back into his dream after that happens, like he's all nervous and he like waiting to greet her like she's a guest, and he's just like nervous because he wants to be like a hospitable host. It's so cute. It says, his nervousness was palpable and it disarmed her. She saw that he wanted to please her. This is for me, she asked with half a voice, because he had prepared like a table with tea and cakes. And he said, I'm sorry if I've gotten anything wrong, he said, abashed. I've never had a guest before and I'm not sure how to do it. Oh my god, they're so cute. Like, anyone who, I know people, they talk badly about this book because it's insta-love. Under these circumstances that these two characters have experienced in their lives, I think it's okay for them to experience a little romance, especially because of what's about to happen. So I think it's fine. So yeah, then they're just being simply cute, and Sarai explains to Laszlo what Errolfane did and how he killed the gods and their children, and then he starts to think like, oh my god, what a horrible human. And Sarai's like, well, I've had a lot of years to think about it and what he did was horrible, but I can also understand the fear because Izagal also like put that hate into him, like she fed him that hate that he felt. So it's like, was it even really his own decision to do what he did? There's just so much there's so much to consider, and that's why I love this book, because all the characters just feel like real people and they feel fleshed out. They're all flawed, and it just I love it. Oh my god. And then there's this part where Sarai is crying and Laszlo's like comforting her, and it says, far more intense was the utter ineffable tenderness he felt and the solemnity, as though he had been entrusted with something infinitely precious, as though he had taken an oath and his very life stood surety to it. He would recognize this later as the moment his center of gravity shifted from being one of one, a pillar alone, apart, to being half of something that would fall if either side were cut away. Oh my god, they're just so sweet. So then they keep just being cute. Oh yeah, we also do find out that it is Minya who is affecting the lull and is preventing Sarai from being able to sleep without having nightmares. But then she, like, her and Laszlo figure out a way for her, like, body to fall asleep, but for her to stay in Laszlo's dream so that they can like dream together, which is so cute. And then she does end up having a nightmare, but since she's like aware in the dream, she's able to kind of dispel of it, which is so cool. We have the line, we'll chase them away or else turn them into fireflies and catch them in jars, talking about her nightmares. And then they have their first kiss, and it's just so sweet. And of course they have their first kiss right when like the sun comes up, so the sun like burns away the moth and the dream is disconnected. And so then it's the next day and they're both just like, ugh, I can't wait till tonight, except I'm pretty sure it's this day that everything goes down. So, but if I'm remembering correctly, like Sarai, last time I saw Sarai, she like took a nap, and I think Laszlo figures that out somehow, or he also just happens to take a nap, and then they get to see each other one more time in his dream. Oh, and the part I just stopped at is I believe Sparrow is about to find out about Ruby and Cheryl and how they've kind of been messing around a little bit, and Sparrow has a crush on Farrell, so they're dealing with their own like teenage feelings right now, but things are about to get a lot worse. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. My plan is to finish this tonight. I don't know if I'll film like my reaction to the end. I mean, I already know how it's gonna end. I don't know if I'll cry this time just because I've read this twice. Like, I definitely cried the first and the second time, but we'll see. We'll see if it makes me cry again. And then I'll definitely come back with my final thoughts. So yeah, we're gonna go finish Strange the Dreamer, and I'm very excited. Okay, hi, I'm back. It is intro me. Hello. I'm gonna be honest, I finished my reread of Strange the Dreamer probably at least 2 weeks ago. I kept putting off finishing this vlog. Not even, I wish I could say, oh my god, it hurts too much to talk about the ending of the book, which like it does, but it's also just because I've been so tired. And the thought of sitting down and filming, I don't know why, I just couldn't do it. So here I am 2 weeks later. I finished the book, obviously, and I mean, I was really nervous going into it. I feel like I'm like that with every reread because I want the book to be as good as I remember it, and of course it is. I mean, it's still my favorite book of all time. No one is surprised. Obviously I gave it 5 stars. I mean, the ending of this book is just it's crazy. I've never read a like YA fantasy that ends the way this book ends, because I feel like in adult fantasy books the stakes are much higher and the idea of a main character dying is not so crazy. And then in YA fantasy you always know that the main characters are gonna be okay. I mean, well, not to spoil another series, I was about to mention another series. If you know, you know. You know what series I'm talking about, where the main character dies at the end of the series, and it did not I didn't think it was written very well. I don't think it went very well. But in this book, obviously, Sarai dies at the end of this book. And I remember reading this book for the very first time, and there's that one where we know the Citadel lurches because Drave sets off an explosion and messes up with the anchors, and one of the anchors I think just drops below like the ground, and so the balance of the Citadel is off and it kind of like just goes like and we know that one girl from the Citadel is thrown off, but we don't know who right away. And it says, oh my god. It says, and one of the girls, graceful in all things, even in this, slipped right off the edge and fell. It was a long way down to weep. Only the first seconds were terrible. Well, and the last. And like, that's the end of the page, and I remember reading this for the first time, being so scared to turn the page, and then every person I've recommended this book to, I remember my friend Salma doing this with me, I had another friend from school who sent this message to me, and also Lisa would text me when they got to that part and they'd be like, I'm afraid to turn the page, and I'm like, I get it. Because you want so badly to believe that it's Ruby or Sparrow, even though I don't want either of them to die, but like, I remember thinking, there's no way it's Sarai. Like, there's no way they would kill Sarai. Even though at the very beginning of the book, she tells you that Sarai dies because of the moths. So Sarai dies, but of course, she doesn't like disappear, I guess. So since Minya can control ghosts, she's trying to find the spirit. But Laszlo is obviously so distraught because of Sarai dying that he goes up to Minya to beg her to like catch Sarai's spirit. And of course, like, Minya gets super mad at him and is like, well, of course I was gonna do that anyway, but now you made me angry. So she is now controlling Sarai's ghost, but she is planning on making Laszlo's life very difficult. And also Sarai, I guess, her undead life. And I mean, obviously there's so many things that happen at the end of this book. We find out that Laszlo is the son of Scathis, and he has the ability to control Mizarthium, and so he like takes away the wings of the Citadel, or he moves them so that the sun can shine on Weep now. He also basically saves everybody from dying after what Drave did, except for Sarai. He couldn't save Sarai, and it's so sad. The book ends with Laszlo up on the Citadel. Yeah, Minya, through Sarai, tells Laszlo, there's only one rule. You do everything I say or I'll let her soul go. How does that sound? Which is not good. Obviously. The Tizer Kane and the other members of the group that came to Weep are feeling very conflicted about Laszlo being Mizarthium, or being Godspawn. I keep getting the Seraphim and Mizarthium mixed up, but he's basically Godspawn. So they feel very conflicted about that, because their whole life they spent hating Godspawn and the Mizarthium because of what they did to the citizens of Weep, and now they've gotten very close with Laszlo and they find out that he is actually Godspawn. So it's a lot to deal with. And I know we explore all those emotions in the second book, and I'm hoping to pick it up this month because I want to. I've never reread Muse and Nightmares, I only read it the one time, so I'm very excited to read that again, and I'm definitely hoping to pick it up soon. But I am just so happy I reread this. It was so much fun. Look at all my tabs. I don't know if you could see because it's very bright. I'm sorry if you can hear the fan, by the way, but it is way too hot to not have the fan on. But yeah, there's all my tabs. I'm very happy with how it looks. It looks much better than it did before with the old tabs. But yeah, so I feel like there's a lot that I haven't talked about. This was very much like a stream of consciousness thoughts vlog. Like, I didn't prepare anything to talk about. Maybe I should have, but I really wanted to just go through my raw emotions rereading this book, finding things I missed or things that I forgot about. Theon, I mean, the fact that like Laszlo and Sarai are in her dream, and Theon sees the moths in Laszlo's room and kills one, and it ends the dream very abruptly, and that's the last time him and Sarai get to spend time together before she dies. It's so sad. Oh my god, I love this book. I love Laszlo. I love Laini Taylor, and I am so excited to read the next book. So let me know in the comments below all of your thoughts on this book. Is it one of your favorite books? Or if you don't like it, I mean, let's keep it mainly positive, but if you don't like this book, I mean, I'm proud of you for making it the whole way through, but it'd be interesting to know why you don't like it. But also, you know, it's my favorite book. Let's be respectful. But yeah, I just want to chat about this book because I love it so much. So yeah, I hope this vlog was fun to watch. Honestly, it's been a few weeks since I filmed anything for this vlog, so I don't really remember. So hopefully it's good and it's fun. And yeah, so that's it for today's video. If you made it to the end, leave a butterfly emoji because there is no moth emoji. So that's the closest thing we have. But leave the butterfly emoji. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye!